From Bilderberg right into summer Davos. Yeah, that's right. We have another event to talk about. No rest for the wicked and all that. This time, they're trying to shape our future from Tianjin, China. And once again, they made it clear. They're not giving up on their technocratic dreams. Tonight, I'll be covering a lot of clips and articles by Tim Hinchliffe over at Sociable. So be sure to give him a follow and check out the links, because it takes a lot of time and effort to do what he does. I'm also going to be paraphrasing and doing my own thing, so check the original. This year's Summer Davos was all about transhumanism, AI, and something they call One Health. One Health is a concept they've come up with that basically enables complete control over all biological life. It links human, animal, and environmental health. So yeah, it's basically a euphemism for surveilling every living thing on the planet. Alright, this is tough to explain, but I'm going to give it a shot. The entire agenda in a nutshell. So, you have a new health monitoring system, commonly referred to as the Internet of Bodies. That's tied into the green environment agenda via the One Health concept. From there, you have AI-driven economies and digital currency, but it's all underpinned through smart infrastructure, the Internet of Things. Now, all of that together, the Internet of Bodies plus the Internet of Things, well, that makes up the Internet of Everything. And what connects the government's prying eyes to all that data? Yeah, I know you guys got this right. Of course, it's the digital ID. It holds it all. Your financial accounts, your online behavior, your health data, a one-stop shop for knowing everything about you. So there you go, it's all one system. Summer Davos 2025 is all about technology and the brave new world that they're building. One where transhumanism, AI, and One Health, well, they take center stage. And every year to coincide with this event, the World Economic Forum releases their Emerging Tech Report, and you can see the full list on the screen right now. Now the article mainly focuses on number 6, autonomous biochemical sensing, which is basically biological sensors for real-time monitoring. This enables the Internet of Bodies. And number 9, collaborative sensing, basically connecting smart cities, the Internet of Bodies, with the Internet of Things into one all-seeing system. And I'm glad he chose these two things to focus on because in my mind, this is the most dangerous aspect. They're the backbone of a total surveillance state. And just to reiterate, it's the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Things, all the way to smart cities. And from that, they can track your every move, pretty much everything. And what's the pitch? Well, to monitor everything happening inside your body or in the environment, these sensors could detect illnesses before symptoms show up, auto-deliver drugs directly to your system, or to ensure food safety and quality.
I think when we think about the autonomous biochemical sensing, that relates very much to what Professor Lee's talking about in terms of the opportunities for personalisation of medical treatment, but also about safety and trust in supply chains and being able to pick up contamination in, say, environmental areas, in food systems throughout the whole process. One of the advantages of these kinds of sensing technologies is that they can give us a signal before there's a big outbreak. So if you can imagine very low levels of contamination, say in a water system or in a particular factory, might allow us to get that traceability and to maintain safety for the populations in an easier way.
So yeah, essentially they claim by monitoring everything that's happening inside your body and in the natural environment that they can detect pandemics before they even start. And you won't have to remember to take a pill because the ingestible implant will release drugs on their own. And it will make food safer. Yeah, cool. Sounds great, right? Well, not so fast. These sensors could essentially turn your body into a digital surveillance lab for governments and corporations. And really, that's openly implied here. But to think of the downsides, I'd like you to remember those contact tracing apps, vaccine passports, and the mass testing during lockdowns. Now picture that, but automatic. No apps, no test results, no vaccine cards, Now you might be asking what could go wrong with having sensors on or inside your body. Sensors that beam your health data right to the authorities or a corporation in real time. Oh, I don't know, just persecution and a threat of being locked out of society based on arbitrary rules that make no sense. Yes, in the future, you can bet punishments would be swift for non-compliance. In the words of the World Economic Forum, these sensors operate autonomously and report findings independently without human intervention. They use wireless communication and self-sustaining power like biofuel cells for continuous monitoring. Data can be retrieved remotely, making them ideal for hard-to-reach areas or remote locations. End of quote. And this World Economic Forum report highlights a company developing wearables to track female hormones for ovulation monitoring, fertility tracking, and menopause care. And that's pretty interesting, as we have a fertility and birth rate problem, and this tech is on the top of their mind. I actually just talked about this in the Bilderberg video. Ironically, or coincidentally, depending on how you look at it, right as summer Davos was unfolding, the UN came out with a report claiming world fertility rates are in unprecedented decline, end of quote. Yeah, I swear, in the future, I don't know when, but eventually they're going to try to control all human reproduction. Of course, social credit systems will be able to decide who is eligible to be a parent, and they'll even toss in some eugenics and gene editing technology, designer babies. Yeah, the idea of the Ubermensch or whatever from the Nazis is still making a comeback, apparently. And I quote, "The continuous monitoring of human health could also become a doctor-patient confidentiality minefield, as private health data would seamlessly flow between public and private entities in real time automatically," end of quote. And I'm sure after a while, consent is not even going to be needed. The thing is, we face an even more daunting prospect, as all political factions seem to be moving in this direction, albeit in their own way.
Secretary Kennedy, my first question is that there is a tremendous amount of research that shows that greater engagement with one's health leads to better outcomes. In recent years, American innovators have created and improved wearable devices so that not only are consumers able to better engage with their health through monitoring data, but they are able to share that data with providers. I believe American consumers, in line with the 21st Century Cures Act, should be able to access these innovative wellness tools. Secretary Kennedy, do you agree that consumers should continue to have access to these tools?
Absolutely. In fact, we're about to launch one of the biggest advertising campaigns in HHS history to encourage Americans to use wearables. It's a way of people can take control over their own health. They can take responsibility. They can see, as you know, what food is doing to their glucose levels, their heart rates, and a number of other metrics as they eat it. And they can begin to make good judgments about their diet, about their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again, and we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
Yeah, so we have RFK Jr. touting wearable devices. On their own, not a big deal, but there's some details that might make you think twice about it.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin, their body temperature. Like we walked in here, we had to go through a body temperature test. Now they're using it to see whether you have the coronavirus. But exactly the same technology can determine what you think about the government. Anger is a biological phenomena just like disease. It's not some spiritual thing out there. It's a biological pattern in your body.
Davos pitches them as part of the Internet of Bodies, and they aren't just counting your steps or checking your pulse. They're really just data harvesting machines, sucking up intimate details about your life and habits. So what happens to that data? Well, the real crazy part is how that data kinda helps them paint a picture of your entire life. And they can even twist that data in ways to screw you over. Companies like Apple or Fitbit sell that data to advertisers, insurers, and even employers. However, in the future, insurance companies might jack up your rates if your wearable shows risky behavior, poor sleep, or bad habits. Employers might flag you as unproductive based on low activity data. And even worse, we're entering a reality where governments might even use that to profile you. Attend a protest, your stress level spikes, and boom, you're a dissident. Congratulations. They can even tell your mood, man. Just take a look at where this stuff is headed. This is from a World Economic Forum segment entitled The Battle for Your Brain.
You mentally move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. You can see your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. But what's that unusual change in your brain activity when you're asleep? It started earlier in the month. You send a text message to your doctor with a mental swipe of your cursor. Could you take a quick look at my brain data? Anything to worry about? Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present. You breathe a sigh of relief when the email she sends you later that day congratulates you on your brain metrics from the past quarter, which have earned you another performance bonus. You head home jamming to the music, with your work-issued brain-sensing earbuds still in. When you arrive at work the next day, a somber cloud has fallen over the office. Along with emails, text messages, and GPS location data, the government has subpoenaed employees' brainwave data from the past year. They have compelling evidence that one of your coworkers has committed massive wire fraud. Now, they're looking for his co-conspirators. You discover they are looking for synchronized brain activity between your coworker and the people he has been working with. While you know you're innocent of any crime, you've been secretly working with him on a new startup venture. Shaking, you remove your earbuds.
And personally, I wouldn't bank on their security protections either. In 2021, Peloton was breached and exposed all their user stats. Innocuous example, maybe. However, once hackers get your biometric data, well, that might change everything. You can't change your heart rate or genetic signature like a password, alright? And guess what? Corporations aren't just going to keep it to themselves either. They're selling it to governments, or it's done through public-private partnerships. They're turning you into what Yuval Harari calls a hackable animal.
The other major danger we face is the rise of digital dictatorships that will monitor everyone all the time. This danger can be stated in the form of a simple equation, which I think might be the defining equation of life in the 21st century. B times C times D equals R, which means biological knowledge multiplied by computing power multiplied by data equals the ability to hack humans, R. If you know enough biology and you have enough computing power and data, you can hack my body and my brain and my life, and you can understand me better than I understand myself. You can know my personality type, my political views, my sexual preferences, my mental weaknesses, my deepest fears and hopes. You know more about me than I know about myself. And you can do that not just to me, but to everyone. A system that understands us better than we understand ourselves can predict our feelings and decisions, can manipulate our feelings and decisions, and can ultimately make decisions for us. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. That's what we are. The power to hack human beings can, of course, be used for good purposes, like providing much better healthcare. But if this power falls into the hands of a 21st century Stalin, the result will be the worst totalitarian regime in human history, and we already have a number of applicants for the job of 21st century Stalin.
Yeah, humans are now hackable animals, he says. You can know exactly what they think and feel by analyzing their data. Creepy stuff. It's really just social engineering on steroids, from simply nudging you to buy stuff to persuading you to fall in line during a crisis. With enough data, you're not just predictable, you're basically programmable. They can even craft propaganda based on your personal emotional triggers and really mess with your head. You shouldn't trust corporations or governments like that at all. And I can't believe there's anybody going along with it in the first place, to be honest. However, the main point I really want to get through, this stuff doesn't stop at your body. That's bad enough, but it gets worse. The real-time data from these autonomous biochemical sensors is designed to plug into a much bigger machine, I guess. A machine that has your health vitals, your location, and if you get a brain-to-computer interface, well, maybe even your thoughts will become part of a sprawling total surveillance grid. This is where the World Economic Forum's other big bet, collaborative sensing, comes in. And it's kind of like the glue for the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Things, and smart cities. So, collaborative sensing, as the World Economic Forum puts it, is all about systems that share data across networks to make context-aware decisions, end of quote. So, what's that mean? Well, as far as I understand it, it's like this. It's the sensors in your smartwatch talking to the camera on your street, which communicates with the air quality monitors in your city, which ping the health database tracking your vitals. It's a giant interconnected web where your everything, your heart rate, your daily commute, even what's in your smart fridge, is tracked, analyzed, and used to quote-unquote optimize your life. Or, more realistically, to control it. Let me try to paint a little picture for you. It's going to be a dramatic scene, alright? I'm just trying to demonstrate how bad things can get if you start letting this stuff slip by. So, imagine you're in a smart city. Your little biochemical sensor detects a virus even before you feel sick. It might even be a false positive, who knows? But too bad, doesn't matter. Because that info is sent automatically to the health authorities, which is then cross-referenced to your location via your digital ID, which is basically an RFID chip. And then they use facial recognition software tied with Palantir's Gotham project maybe to pinpoint where you are in a moment's notice. So yeah, basically before you can even blink, boom, you're flagged for quarantine and about to be scooped up or whatever. Now, if we want to imagine a real nightmare scenario, it can get way worse. Because maybe they sent out a little notification to your employer, or shut off your digital ID entirely. No more access to your bank account, nothing, completely locked out. All done automatically, and more than likely, without a human even being in the loop. No human decisions made at all. Now you might be saying, great, nice dramatic sci-fi dystopian movie scene you're building there. But really, these are the inherent problems with systems that are designed to quote-unquote collaborate. The Internet of Bodies with all the sensors on you or inside you feeding into the Internet of Things, which basically covers your entire workplace and your smart home and all the devices connected to that, of which they've been trying to sell to everybody. Well, those systems both feed into smart city infrastructure, where they plan to have AI manage all that data to manage traffic and allocate resources, stuff like that. Now you might be thinking, the scale of a system like that is just too big. And at first, I'd agree with you, but they openly talk about it. And really, they're not even shy about it. They're building this.
They call it part of the fourth industrial revolution.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
The very idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change. Up until now, the conversation we've been having is around freedom of speech. Once we can access people's thoughts and access people's emotions.
The focus, as all of you know today, is on what's now called the Internet of Bodies, involving medical implants and other kinds of devices that go inside your body and all together with the Internet as a whole comprise the Internet of Bodies.
The Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is actually an ecosystem. It's a bunch of devices that are connected to the Internet that contain software and that either collect personal health data about you or can alter the body's function. We think of the Internet of Bodies as this collection of all these devices as well as all the data that the devices are gathering about you. And in healthcare, Internet of Bodies has been around for quite a while.
So the Internet of Bodies, imagine the power of AI. What is artificial intelligence? It's a way to automate computation and cognition. So we can now automate learning, perceiving, doing computation. It's a pervasive general purpose technology that will be used in all of our industries, that will come into our professional networks, our private networks, our schools, our industries and our offices. What I wanted to epitomize with the Internet of Bodies is this notion that we will be under assessment, we will be under measure of computation in every aspect of our lives in the future. From what you eat, who you date, what you buy on the internet, how much energy you use, but also what are your vital signs? How well are you doing in terms of health? What kind of specific genetic quirks do you have? What's your genome telling about your health, about your mental health, about how well you are doing, how well you are aging, what kind of disease you are susceptible to?
It has a bit of an Orwellian twinge to it.
Well,
Their report says that these systems can, and I quote, empower cities, industries, and communities by making every device a node in a decision-making network. But who's calling the shots? Well, it's not you. It's the people who run the infrastructure, governments and corporations. They're holding the keys here, and their track record isn't good, all right? It's not good at all. They're asking us to trust them with something this massive, as if we don't have history books filled with reasons why we should not trust them. For example, China's social credit system is the poster child for this tech, already tying health data to jobs, travel, and even social status. Summer Davos, which by the way is hosted in China, is not critiquing this, it's kinda showcasing it. You know, Klaus Schwab was not lying, and he did not misspeak when he said China's a model for the world. Yeah, they dream of that type of control. They're not surveilling you to keep you safe and healthy, alright? It's for power. The big thing with all that data, you become predictable, and predictable people are controllable people. Now, where does all this data from your vitals and health info to your behaviors end up? Say it with me, digital ID. It's being pitched as a single, centralized profile that acts similar to a passport, but it's for pretty much everything. Instead of just your name and photo, it's got your health info, finances, your grocery habits, your social media posts, even whether you jaywalked last Tuesday. Everything. Just take a look at this little diagram right here. It has everything included. Now, of course, the World Economic Forum's been pushing for digital IDs for years, pitching them as a way to streamline services. Yeah, they love pitching it as just some sort of convenient alternative. However, once your digital ID holds all that data, it becomes a perfect tool for social credit systems. And yeah, China's already doing that. In China, your social credit score is tied to your digital ID, which tracks your behavior. If you pay your bills on time and post positive content online, well then you're golden. You can go and get a loan, you get travel perks, better jobs. However, if you step out of line, say criticize the government, or hang out with quote-unquote low-score friends, well, if you do that, then your score tanks. Suddenly, you can't board a train, your kids get kicked out of good schools, or you're locked out of certain apps. And by 2024, China's system had already blacklisted millions of people from travel and penalized over 20 million people for, simple acts that they deem to be defiant.
Picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked. The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen and determines what you're allowed to do, like ever. Boarding a train, getting a mortgage, all goes back to this score. It's called social credit. It's actually happening in China. The system's eyes are in big data, artificial intelligence, and roughly 200 million surveillance cameras. She's a 752. That's her rating with Sesame Credit. You start with 1,000 points, and you can print out your report anytime. You lose points for things like jaywalking, littering, tossing cigarette butts, or spreading rumors. Cameras do a lot of the surveillance work, but it's pretty analog too, like posters that list the ways you can gain or lose points. And each night, local TV shows the surveillance highlights of the day. She's an information collector, a paid enforcer who walks around and writes down deeds about her neighbors. Like the man who carried a drunk person home. Things like this are good deeds, she said. But the farmer overheard swearing and being rude? Yeah, bad deeds. Her quota is 10 a month. She likes the work, thinks the city's...
But it's not just China. Other countries are dipping their toes in. Take Nigeria for an example. You have Nigeria rolling out a cradle-to-grave digital ID to manage everything from birth records to welfare. India's Aadhaar system links biometric data to banking, healthcare, and voting. The EU is working on a digital identity wallet to unify across member states. These aren't social credit systems yet, but the framework's there. This stuff is happening, and it's also the EU, so you know exactly where it's going to go. I mean, come on, that little bullshit ID could dictate whether you could get a job, a loan, or even a coffee. It's insane that it's even being proposed, let alone accepted by so many people. And it's not even about punishing criminals, it's simply about shaping behavior, social engineering. That's all it is. They want to quote-unquote nudge you into better choices, like eating less meat for sustainability or avoiding misinformation online, otherwise known as the truth. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm not just making things up here. The World Economic Forum's own report talks up incentivizing behavior through data-driven systems. And when corporations like Tencent or Palantir get involved, well, you should look out. It's gonna start small with a little choice here or there. But you're just one algorithm away from being owned entirely. So, get out there and become ungovernable, or at the very least, not so predictable while you can. Enjoy some stuff. Get weird even, but not too weird, alright, you heathens? Calm down. Alright, anyway, let's get back to the article. As for privacy, well, it doesn't exist at that point. However, to stop people from realizing that, they're pitching a new quote-unquote messaging platform. Oh yeah, they're gonna lie by omission and pump out propaganda to persuade you that it's all for your convenience. They're just looking out for you, right? No, that is not the case at all. In fact, they have an entire new regulatory framework in mind, and I quote, "In other words, laws would have to be changed, or you'd have to otherwise give up your rights voluntarily for a promise of better health outcomes. And as a messaging strategy to lull the public into accepting the complete and total invasion of their privacy and bodily autonomy, the World Economic Forum report suggests that stakeholders should conduct public demonstrations of non-invasive applications, building public comfort with the idea. And in keeping with the One Health agenda, the climate, the environment, wild animals, and human health are all considered to be interconnected, which provides the perfect cover to ensure that everything in nature and every person on the planet is to be tracked and traced in real time. Now that we've seen how the World Economic Forum frames tracking and tracing everything in nature, including everything that goes on inside your body, as something for the greater good, let's take a look at the other sensing technology in the emerging tech report, collaborative sensing. If you thought cameras on every corner and schemes like the congestion fees in New York City or the ULEZ cameras in the UK were intrusive, well, just wait until you hear about collaborative sensing.
So when you think about the collaborative sensing mechanisms, we can imagine in our cities and in our transportation networks, we're likely to have a whole lot of different autonomous and Internet of Things systems that are all interrelated also with what's on our physical person. So I think we're going to see, for example, with the collaborative sensing, different ways of being mobile in our environments. I think we're going to see safer areas where, if you're a pedestrian, a car will note where you are, a scooter will note where you are. There will be mechanisms like we already have in some of our vehicles that will stop us, that will move us, that will enable us to navigate uncertain environments in a more connected and intelligent fashion.
So yeah, autonomous agents such as robots, drones, intelligent vehicles, and IT systems will be equipped to navigate unfamiliar environments and make collective decisions. And according to the report, sensing devices are now ubiquitous in people's homes, vehicles, and workplaces. Yeah, you can't escape it. Right off the bat, this type of messaging normalizes surveillance as something that we already accept in order to sell us on more surveillance that is technologically far beyond anything we've ever experienced. In the future, the author says that the collaborative sensing will reshape how cities operate and how organizations use information to make decisions. Now, if that's true, then collaborative sensing would almost certainly have to apply to law enforcement as well. CCTV cameras would be considered child's play compared to what's in store for our future. Imagine a city patrolled by autonomous robots and drones powered by vehicle-to-everything technologies that can deploy radar, LiDAR, infrared sensing that can see into every home, vehicle, and underground structure. There would be nowhere to hide. End of quote. And that's the point. They don't want you to have a place to hide. They want you on the grid. Okay, so we're almost done. However, as I was looking into all this stuff, I found myself coming back to the argument of technological accelerationism versus political incrementalism. Now, the bad news is that the end result is the same. The only difference is how long it takes for us to get there. So on the one side, you've got Silicon Valley, global think tanks, and yeah, many more people at events like Summer Davos, who argue that rapid innovation is the only way forward. They say that AI, biotech, and digital systems will solve climate change, boost economies, and maybe even make us immortal. Or so they claim. I'm not buying it. However, on the other side, we have political incrementalists, governments, regulators, policymakers who want to slow things down, as they know it's a proven method of implementation. Don't want to go too fast and make people weary. It's all about a slow and methodical change. Yeah, you know the scenario. The frog boiling in the pot. However, both of those paths seem to lead to the same destination, a world where privacy erodes, surveillance becomes omnipresent, and control tightens. Whether it's through corporate algorithms or government mandates, doesn't matter. It's just a matter of speed. Accelerationists want to hit the gas, while incrementalists prefer, a slow cruise. Either way, the road seems to end in a place where individual freedoms gotta take a back seat. And as all of you are well aware, I'm always a little light on solutions, and tend to just point out the big glaring problems. I mean, this stuff is complicated, and I don't know what we can do besides, stuff on an individual level. And with that said, do you guys remember the argument about developing a digital Bill of Rights? Some argue the original already covers our digital lives. Free speech is free speech, whether it's on a soapbox or a social media platform, doesn't matter. And in theory, yeah, they're right. But that's not what we see in practice. During COVID, the US government used private corporations as a way to bypass First Amendment protections. And in the rest of the world, well, they're just arresting people for speech crimes, outright. Show a meme that the UK government doesn't like, and boom, you're off to the clink. Or, put in the paddy wagon, or whatever they say, right? Now the Fourth Amendment should protect us against unwarranted digital searches, just as it does physical ones, right? But in reality, again, that's never the case. These corporations actively help the government with their digital search and seizure, and often offer them backdoors into their tech. Governments and corporations are building systems that sidestep those protections, from facial recognition networks to AI-driven social credit systems. Quite the tricky situation we find ourselves in, don't you think? But why don't we get back to the technological accelerationism versus political incrementalism argument? Here we have Tony Blair, the foremost proponent of digital ID, and he was at Summer Davos, and he basically was touching on this subject. Not in a good way, but he was. He says, and I quote, "The holy grail in politics is to make important change without pain. But it's not possible," end of quote. He went on to say that countries who adapt and adopt this new tech-driven paradigm, otherwise known as a global surveillance state, will succeed. And anyone who doesn't fall in line, well, they're going to be left behind. Yeah, so he claims this is going to be the biggest challenge in terms of governance, that everyone's going to be afraid of where this is heading. But he doesn't stop for one moment to think about the fact that, yeah, maybe people should be scared of where this is heading. What's unfolding isn't just a policy debate, it's a structural shift, a new paradigm. Think about all the technologies being rolled out: 5G networks, Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies, even the metaverse. They aren't neutral tools. They're designed with surveillance as a feature, not a bug. Take AI, for example. It's not just about chatbots or self-driving cars. It's about systems that can track, predict, and influence behavior at scale. What's my main points? I don't know. I guess it's that when control is the default setting, the potential for abuse isn't just a risk, it's basically a guarantee. As I said, solutions are above my pay grade, alright? I don't know. But I do know that just waiting around for the damage to hit us is a losing strategy. I mean, by the time you're fighting mass surveillance or speech crackdowns, the systems are already in place and a part of our infrastructure. The answer lies in foresight, you gotta have it, and start anticipating the worst outcomes and building safeguards right now. And I think a digital Bill of Rights could be a part of that. It would need to explicitly protect privacy, limit data collection, and ensure free expression in digital spaces. I guess we have to rethink how technology is designed, demanding transparency and user control from the ground up. That means open source systems maybe, decentralized platforms probably, and a hard line against tech that prioritizes profit or power over people. A daunting task, no doubt. Even while I'm saying it, it seems far-fetched. But what are you gonna do? Just give up? Can't. You just can't do that. Now some say I might be fear-mongering or being an alarmist or whatever, but open your eyes. Governments and corporations aren't just failing to protect your rights, they're actively building the tools to bypass them. Summer Davos is simply a public display of where the world's headed. And I suppose the question is whether we can steer it to somewhere better before the destination is finally determined. Alright, so be sure to check out the links. I might have one more video coming out about Summer Davos, because they also got into some crazy robotics, brain-to-computer interfaces, and I think the implications are pretty crazy. But I'm not sure yet what I'm doing next. Anyway, until next time, this is HelioWave. If you like the content, like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you want to. If you're in a position to, consider subscribing on Locals, or you can use PayPal. As always, make sure you disobey those true fascistas, and yes, I do hope you have a good night.